Have you ever noticed that the smartest people in the room are often the quietest? It's not because they're shy. It's because they're wise enough to avoid saying things that might get them in trouble. Let's talk about the hard truth about what smart people never say. And hey, if you've said any of these things before, don't worry. We're all here to grow. Right. I already know that. Ah. Yes. The all too I already know that response. It's like we've mastered the art of brushing off valuable lessons. We act like repeating something we've heard 100 times makes us immune to actually doing it. And here's the thing, we all do it. I do it. You do it. Everyone does it. I'll hit you with this if you truly knew it. Why aren't you living it? Let's be honest for a second that we're all guilty of hearing something. Nodding along. Then moving on with our lives like nothing's changed, but there's a difference between hearing something and actually letting it sink in. There's a difference between knowing about something and actually doing it. I'll tell you right now. Just knowing something doesn't change a thing. Doing it does. I've been there so many times. Someone would tell me that I should wake up early to be productive. My response would be, yeah. I know. I'd nod politely as if I had the wisdom of the ages. I would have done it. But I didn't. I knew that waking up early was good for me. I wasn't doing it. I knew it would make me more productive. I wasn't living it. Why? Saying I already know that is easy. It's comfortable. There's a big difference between knowing something and actually doing something. I know this from experience. People would tell me to wake up early to be productive. I'd nod and agree. I never actually did the hard work that would make those words matter. It's like owning a fancy sports car but never taking it for a spin. You have all the power and potential sitting in your garage. Instead of using it, you just stare at it and think, yeah. But that's cool that I know that car can go fast. Unless you're driving it, you're not really getting anywhere. I remember the first time I realized I was that guy. The one who nodded and said, I know. Never put anything into action. Someone told me, you need to stop checking your phone the second you wake up. There's a big difference between knowing about something and actually doing it. I'll tell you right now, knowledge alone doesn't change a thing. Action does. I've been there so many times. Someone would tell me that I should wake up early to be productive. My response would be, yeah. I know. I'd give them the polite nod as it ruins your day. I thought. Pfft. I already know that. I'd heard it a million times. I mean, who hasn't? Then I started looking at my life and thinking, why am I always so scattered? Why am I always behind? It hit me like a ton of bricks. I wasn't doing the simple things I already knew I should be doing. There's a big difference between knowing something and actually living it. You can't just talk about what you know, you have to live it. When you truly live your knowledge, you don't have to boast. I've been there many times. People would tell me to wake up early to be productive. I would agree. But I didn't do it. Then I decided to stop saying I already know that and start actually doing it. I started putting my phone out of reach before bed. Guess what? My mornings became clearer. My thoughts were more focused. I didn't start my day in a panic. It was the simplest change. It made a big difference. The biggest difference is that you have to do it. I knew about it for years. I didn't actually do it. Nothing changed. The people who really know something don't need to say it. They just live it. When you're truly living your knowledge, you don't have to boast about it. It's not about being the loudest in the room. Proclaiming, "I know everything." It's about the quiet confidence of someone who's actively applying their wisdom in their daily life. Think about it: successful entrepreneurs, athletes, people who've mastered a skill don't need to tell you how much they know. They don't walk around saying, "I already know that." They're out there doing it. They're out there practicing, failing, getting back up and getting better. They're not just talking the talk. They're walking the walk. That's the difference. The next time you catch yourself saying, there's a big difference between knowing something and actually living it. I'll tell you right now, knowledge alone doesn't change a thing. Action does. I've been there so many times. Someone would tell me that I should wake up early to be productive. My response would be, "Yeah, I know." I'd give them the polite nod as if they were already aware. Pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself, am I really living this? Or am I just collecting knowledge like trophies? Not using them? Because let's be real, there's no point in collecting all this wisdom if we don't put it into action. Life isn't about how much you know, it's about how much you knowing something and living it are two different things. Knowledge alone doesn't change a thing, action does. I've been there many times. Someone would tell me to wake up early to be productive. I would agree. I wouldn't actually do it. It's about what you're willing to do with what you already know. Trust me when I say that when I stopped being that smug guy and started actually applying the advice I had been ignoring, everything changed. Waking up early wasn't just a suggestion anymore. It became a game changer. It made me cut out distractions and be more productive. It made a life-changing difference. Instead of brushing something off with, "I already know that." Flip the script. Ask yourself, how can I actually use this? How can I apply this to make my life better? You'll be amazed at what happens when you stop just knowing and start doing. It's the difference between being a passive observer of your life and being the active creator of it. Next time someone shares a piece of wisdom with you, don't just nod and say, "I already know that." Ask yourself, how can I use this to improve my life today? And I promise, there's a big difference between knowing something and actually doing it. I know this from experience. Just having knowledge doesn't change anything. It's action that makes a difference. I've been there many times. People would tell me that I should wake up early to be productive. My response would be, "Yeah, I know." I'd nod politely as I said, "You're right. But a change in perspective will take you further than you ever thought possible." 2. That's not fair. Let's talk about fairness. Shall we? We've all said it at some point. Something didn't go our way. We threw up our hands in frustration, declaring, "That's not fair." It feels good to say, doesn't it? Sometimes we feel like the world should be more fair. We might wonder why things aren't balanced. Why someone else got what we wanted. Why life throws us unexpected challenges. But here's the truth, life isn't fair. It's probably always going to be this way. If we can accept this, we can focus on what really matters and what we can control. Complaining about fairness doesn't help. It's like yelling at the wind, loud, dramatic, ultimately pointless. When I was younger, I thought fairness was very important. I saw someone else succeed. I thought, why them? I worked just as hard. Or I failed at something. I thought that life was rigged against me. It wasn't until I had a mentor who bluntly told me, "Stop whining. Fairness is a myth." It was painful. It was the wake-up call I needed to make a phone call. Think about it. Nature isn't fair. Some animals are born predators, while others are born prey. Some people are born into wealth, while others are born into poverty. Some have talents that seem to come naturally, while others have to work twice as hard for half the results. That's just the way it is. Fairness isn't a law of the universe. It's a human construct we cling to. It makes us feel like the world should operate according to our rules, but complaining about fairness is a waste of your energy. You could be using that energy to improve, grow, adapt, win despite the odds. Every minute you spend complaining about how unfair something is, you're giving away your power. You're handing it over to circumstances, to other people, to things outside your control. And let me tell you, those things don't care about your feelings. The most successful people I know have one thing in common: they don't waste time crying about fairness. Instead, they focus on what they can control. They don't say, "That's not fair." They say, "What's next? How do I work around this? How do I turn this to my advantage?" Take Michael Jordan for example. Michael Jordan didn't make his high school varsity basketball team. Was that fair? Maybe not. But instead of sulking, he worked harder than anyone else, practicing until he became one of the greatest athletes of all time. He didn't just sit around waiting for fairness to hand him success. His relentless effort did. Here's a deep message to let sink in: fairness doesn't matter. What matters is resilience. What matters is how you respond when life doesn't go as planned. You can complain about the cards you were dealt, or you can play your hand like a champion. One of the most important moments in my life came when I stopped focusing on fairness and started focusing on what I could control. I remember losing out on a promotion I thought I deserved. My initial reaction was, "That's not fair." But things outside of your control, let me tell you, those things don't care about your feelings. The most successful people I know have one thing in common: they don't waste time crying about fairness. Instead, they focus on what they can control. They don't say, "That's not fair." They say, "What's next? How do I work around this? How do I turn this to my advantage?" Take Michael Jordan example. After the pity party, I realized something. Complaining wouldn't change the outcome. I got to work. I improved my skills, built better relationships, eventually landed a position that was even better than the one I missed out on. Here's the takeaway: fairness is a distraction. It keeps you stuck in a loop of frustration and inaction. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What can I do about it?" That shift in mindset is powerful. It's the difference between being a victim of your circumstances and becoming the architect of your own life. So the next time you catch yourself saying, "That's not fair," pause. Take a breath. Remind yourself that fairness isn't a guarantee and it's not a requirement for success. Focus on what you can control: your effort, your things outside of your control. Let me tell you, those things don't care about your feelings. The most successful people I know have one thing in common: they don't waste time crying about fairness. Instead, they focus on what they can control. They don't say, "That's not fair." They say, "What's next? How do I work around this? How do I turn this to my advantage?" Take Michael Jordan. His attitude, his actions. At the end of the day, life may not be fair. You can always choose to rise above it. When you do, you'll realize that fairness was never the point. Strength, resilience and adaptability are three things. I deserve this. I deserve this. It's the phrase we use to justify everything from skipping the gym to indulging in a little too much self-pity. It feels good to say, Doesn't it? There's a sense of entitlement wrapped in those words. A belief that the universe owes us something because we worked hard, suffered enough, simply exist. But here's the thing, deserving something doesn't mean it's going to happen. Let me be real with you, the world doesn't operate things outside of your control. Here's the hard truth. Deserving something doesn't mean you'll get it. Only action, consistency, persistence can. The most successful people I know have one thing in common. They don't waste time crying about unfairness. Instead, they focus on what they can control. They don't say, "That's not fair." They say, "What's next? How do I work around this? How do I turn this to my advantage?" Take Michael Jordan. Example. It's not a vending machine where you insert effort and automatically get rewarded. Life is messy, unpredictable, often indifferent to how much you think you deserve something. If you cling to this mindset, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. I used to live in the "I deserve this" bubble. I'd tell myself I've worked hard. I deserve success, that I've been patient. I deserve a break, and when things didn't go my way, I'd spiral. I'd feel bitter, frustrated, even resentful. But here's the harsh truth I had to learn: deserving something doesn't entitle you to it. Only action, consistency, persistence can. Things outside of your control, let me tell you, those things don't care about your feelings. The most successful people I know have one thing in common. They don't waste time crying about fairness. Instead, they focus on what they can control. They don't say, "That's not fair." They say, "What's next? How do I work around this? How do I turn this to my advantage?" Take Michael Jordan. Example. He truly brings results. Think about it. How many people do you know who sit around complaining about how much they deserve? "I deserve a promotion," they'll say, while putting in the bare minimum. "I deserve love," they'll claim, while refusing to work on themselves or their relationships. The "I deserve this" mindset becomes a crutch. Sometimes, you have to work even harder. Wait longer. Face rejection without losing momentum. Here's a way to avoid the uncomfortable truth. Do you really deserve what you're asking for? Are you hoping life will hand it to you because it's convenient? Here's the kicker: the universe doesn't hand out participation trophies. You don't get points for showing up. For showing up and saying, "I want this." You get points for working hard. Showing up even when it's hard. Taking rejection and failure as lessons instead of excuses to quit. I'll give you an example from my own life. There was a time when I was convinced I deserved success in my career, that I had put in hours. I had sacrificed weekends. I had paid my dues, as they say. But despite all that, I wasn't getting the opportunities one wanted. And you know what? It wasn't because life was unfair, that it was because I wasn't going above and beyond, that I was doing the bare minimum and expecting maximum rewards. Once I realized that, I stopped saying "I deserve this" and started asking, "What else can I do to earn this?" That shift in mindset changed everything. Here's the deeper message: deserving something is passive, earning it is active. Active. When you stop focusing on what you think you deserve and start focusing on what you're willing to work for, you unlock a level of power and freedom that entitlement can never give you. You stop waiting for the world to validate you and start creating your own opportunities. Let's be clear, this doesn't mean you shouldn't recognize your worth. There's a fine line between entitlement and self-active. When you stop thinking about what you deserve and start thinking about what you're willing to do, you gain a level of power and freedom that you can't get by feeling entitled to things. You stop waiting for the world to validate you and start creating your own opportunities. Let's be clear, this doesn't mean you shouldn't recognize your worth. There's a fine line between feeling entitled and respecting yourself. Knowing your worth is essential. It's what keeps you from settling for less than you deserve in relationships. In your career. In life. Here's the twist: your worth isn't determined by what you think you deserve. It's determined by what you're willing to do to align your life with your values. When you catch yourself thinking, "I deserve this," ask yourself, have I truly earned it? Am I doing everything in my power to make this happen? Am I waiting for something to happen that I don't control? The truth is, the world doesn't owe you anything. If you show up, put in the work, don't give up, you'll find that life has a way of rewarding those who earn it, not those who just expect it. So, the next time you feel tempted to say, "I deserve this," change it to, "I'm willing to earn this." Remember that, in the end, the things you earn through hard work, being resilient and persistent, is more fulfilling than anything you could ever feel entitled to. When you look back, you'll know you earned it, not just deserved it. "I'm too old or young for this" is a classic excuse. It's a way of convincing yourself that your age, whether high or low, is a valid reason to opt out of something challenging, exciting, unfamiliar. But let's be honest. It's about age. It's also about fear. You might be afraid of failure, of being judged, of success. Here's the truth: age is rarely the real problem. It's your mindset. First, let's tackle the "too old" excuse. Society loves to say that there's an expiration date on ambition, dreams, new beginnings. But history shows us something different. Colonel Sanders started KFC in his 60s. Grandma Moses began her painting career in her late 70s. Morgan Freeman wasn't a famous actor until he was 50. These people didn't let age stop them from achieving their goals. Age isn't something that should stop you from doing things. Unless you make it stop. You might not have the same energy or physical strength as you did in your 20s. You've gained something more valuable: experience, wisdom, a better understanding of what's truly important. If you're not using these qualities to achieve your goals, you're missing out. Your goals. You're not taking advantage of the gifts that come with age. Now, let's talk about the too young crowd. "I'm too young" is often a way of saying, "I don't have experience. I'm scared people won't take me seriously." Here's the thing. Being young is your superpower. Youth is when you can take risks, make mistakes, bounce back faster than ever. Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook in his early 20s. Malala Yousafzai became a global activist as a teenager. If they had let their age stop them, the world would have missed out on their brilliance. I remember a time when I used this excuse myself. When I was younger, I passed up opportunities because I thought I wasn't ready. I'd tell myself, "I'm too young. I'll do it later." Later turned into years of regret when I realized I'd let fear masquerade as an excuse. On the flip side, as I got older, I started thinking, maybe it's too late for me to try this. The truth is, every time I pushed past those doubts, I found success and growth waiting on the other side. Here's a deeper message: age is just a number. It's your belief about that number that defines your potential. If you say, "I'm too old," or "I'm too young," you are trapped in a mindset that keeps you in your comfort zone. It's easier to blame your age than to admit you're afraid of stepping into the unknown. The unknown is where growth happens. If you're thinking you're too old, Ask yourself if you're really out of time. If you're just afraid to start. If you think you're too young. Ask yourself if it's really about age. If you're afraid of being judged or failing. Once you remove the excuses, you'll see that age has nothing to do with your ability to succeed. Here's a tip: change the way you think. Instead of saying, "I'm too old," say, "I have the wisdom and experience to make this work." "I'm too young. I'll admit that. I have the energy and fresh perspective to make this happen." Age doesn't define your ability, your mindset does. Age only matters when you let it. Whether you're 18 or 80. You can take action. Pursue your dreams. Create a meaningful life. Stop using age as an excuse and start using it as an advantage. The truth is, it's never too early or too late to start living the life you want. They're just lucky. The ultimate cop, when we see someone else succeeding, thriving, achieving what we secretly want. It's easy to think it's just because of luck. It's comforting, isn't it? It lets us not take responsibility. If they're just lucky, then we don't have to think about the possibility that maybe they worked harder, sacrificed more, simply made better choices. Let's be honest. Luck is rarely the full story. Think about it. How often do we see the hard work behind someone's success? We see the promotion, not the sleepless nights. We see the thriving business. It's not about the number of times you try and fail. It's about having the right body for the job. It's not about how many hours you spend in the gym or how many times you say no to junk food. Saying someone's success is just luck is like watching the last part of a movie and acting like the rest of the story didn't happen. Sure, luck exists. Being in the right place at the right time and meeting the right person can make a difference. But here's the thing, luck only works if you're ready to take advantage of the opportunity when it comes. Luck isn't just about finding a pot of gold. It's about showing up every day with you're ready to dig with your shovel. Even when you don't know where the treasure is. I used to think this way, too. I'd look at successful people and think they must have had it easy. They probably had connections, money, some kind of lucky break. Then I started looking into it more. I talked to these lucky people. Read their stories. Saw the patterns: sleepless nights, relentless focus, failure after failure, a refusal to quit. Luck may have played a part. Determination, perseverance, preparation were the real MVPs. Let me give you an example. Have you ever heard of the actor Bryan Cranston? Before he became famous for his role in Breaking Bad, he spent many years working on smaller roles. He was rejected many times. Was he lucky to get the role of Walter White? Maybe. He was also lucky to have worked so hard for so many years. Here's the deeper truth: when we say someone is lucky, it's a sign that we are afraid to admit that we are not working hard enough. It's easier to envy. Instead of focusing on the things they did wrong, try to learn from their successes. If you dismiss their achievements as mere luck, you miss out on the chance to learn from their experiences. Ask yourself what they did to get where they are and what you can learn from their choices. Habits. Mindset. Often, their success comes from a combination of hard work, smart decisions, persistence. Here's a helpful tip: create your own luck by putting yourself in situations where opportunities will arise. You can find your network, learn new skills, take risks, keep showing up. The more you prepare, the luckier you'll seem to others. So, The next time you say someone is just lucky, stop and remind yourself. Luck might open the door. It's hard work that gets you through it. Don't envy someone else's success, use it as fuel to create your own. At the end of the day, the luckiest people are the ones who refuse to give up. 6. That's too risky. The perfect excuse for staying in your comfort zone. Risk is. It's scary because you never know what will happen. It can be uncomfortable. There's always the possibility of failure. But let's change the way we think for a second. What's the bigger risk? Trying something new and failing. Never trying at all. When we say that's too risky, what we're really saying is that we're afraid of the unknown. That's okay. It's normal to be afraid. Let's be honest. Every meaningful accomplishment in life comes with some level of risk. Starting a business. Pursuing a relationship. Moving to a new city. Switching careers, all of these things come with some level of risk. These are all risky moves. They're also the moves that lead to growth. Fulfillment. Ultimately a life worth living. Let's get personal. I remember a time when I passed up an opportunity because I thought it was too risky. It was a project I'd always wanted to do. I was afraid of failing. Losing money. Looking foolish. I stayed safe. Guess what? That safe decision haunted me for years. It didn't haunt me because I failed. Because I didn't even try. I realized that playing it safe was the riskiest move of all. It cost me time. There are 2 reasons why I'm taking this risk. First, I can grow. Second, I'll find out what I'm capable of. Here's the thing about risk. It's unavoidable. Even staying in your comfort zone is risky. It can make you stagnant. It can make you regret things. You might miss opportunities. Life itself is a risk. You could wake up tomorrow and face something completely unexpected. Why not take risks that are aligned with your goals and dreams? Take a moment to think about the people you admire. Do you think they got where they are by avoiding risk? Elon Musk bet everything on Tesla and SpaceX. People called him crazy. Oprah Winfrey left a safe job to start her own show. Even your favorite athletes or artists took risks. They invested time, money, effort. There was no guarantee of success. Here's the kicker. Successful people don't take risks blindly. They take calculated risks. They weigh the pros and cons. They prepare as much as possible and then leap. The key is not to eliminate risk. It's to manage it. How do you reframe instead of saying, "That's too risky"? Ask yourself. What's the worst that could happen? Often, the worst case scenario isn't as bad as you think. Then ask, what's the best that could happen? When you focus on the good things that could happen, you start to see risk as an opportunity, not a threat. Let's not forget the deeper message. Avoiding risk is avoiding life. The moments that define us are almost always the ones where we step into the unknown. Face our fears. And it's okay to take a chance. You might fail. Even failure teaches you something valuable. It's a stepping stone, not a dead end. The truth is that playing it safe is the biggest risk of all. It guarantees you'll never grow, never learn, never achieve the extraordinary. So, the next time you catch yourself saying, "That's too risky," stop and ask yourself, is it really too risky? Am I just too afraid? Then, remind yourself that the best things in life often come on the other side of risk. That's not how we've always done it. This phrase is often used to defend tradition. Routine. The comfort of the familiar. But let's face it, the reason we're stuck is often that we're doing things the same way we always have. Cling to the past may feel safe. It's also a recipe for irrelevance. The world is constantly evolving. Technology advances. Industries shift. Cultures change. So must we. Imagine if humanity had always done things the same way. We would still be using candles for lighting. Riding horses to work. Believing the earth was the center of the universe. Progress only happens when someone challenges the status quo and says, maybe there's a better way. Let's get personal for a moment. I remember working on a team where this phrase was practically a motto. Whenever someone suggested a new idea or approach, it was immediately dismissed with, that's not how we've always done it. At first, it seemed reasonable. Why fix something that wasn't broken? Over time, it became clear that this way of thinking was hindering innovation. Our competitors were outpacing us. Morale was low because no one felt empowered to think creatively. Eventually, I decided to challenge this way of thinking. I proposed a new approach. Tackling a recurring issue. At first, people were resistant to change. They were uncomfortable stepping outside their routines. But when we implemented the change, it worked. It solved the problem and opened the door for more innovation. That experience taught me a valuable lesson: tradition is great. Progress is better. Here's the thing, that's not how we've always done it. It's often an excuse for fear of change. Fear of failure. Fear of the unknown. It's easier to stick with what's familiar than to risk trying something new. But growth doesn't happen in the comfort zone, it happens when we challenge ourselves. Question old ways. Take a leap of faith. Think about some of the most successful companies and individuals in history. Apple didn't stick to how it's always been done when they introduced the iPhone. When Netflix saw that streaming was becoming popular, they stopped offering DVD rentals. Even important people like Martin Luther King Jr. and Mahatma Gandhi weren't happy with how things were. They wanted to make things better. Here's the important part. When things change, it doesn't mean that everything will be different. It means that we can keep doing the things that work and make the things that don't work better. Tradition is important because it gives us stability and a sense of who we are. When tradition gets in the way of progress, it's time to let it go. If you or someone else says, that's not how we've always done it, stop and ask if the old way is still useful. If the answer is no, it's time to embrace change. Yes, it's uncomfortable and risky. It's also where growth, innovation, success happen. Here's a deeper truth: the world doesn't stop. To everyone, if you don't change, you will be left behind. If you are willing to challenge the status quo, you will open the door to possibilities you never imagined. Let go of how we've always done things and start asking, what's the best way to do it now? The future belongs to those who dare to reinvent the present. The next time you catch yourself saying that's too risky or any of these other phrases, stop and think about what you're really telling yourself. Are you holding back because of fear or because you're protecting your comfort zone? Growth doesn't happen where it's safe. It happens when you challenge yourself. Take risks. Let go of limiting beliefs. Remember, life is short. Every excuse you make today is a regret you'll face tomorrow. Stop and think about what you're really telling yourself. Are you holding back because of fear or because you're protecting your comfort zone? Growth doesn't happen where it's safe. It happens when you challenge yourself. Take risks. Let go of limiting beliefs. Remember. Life is short. Every excuse you make today is a regret you'll face tomorrow. Take the leap. Bet on yourself. Don't let fear, doubt, excuses keep you from the life you're capable of living. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Together, let's stop playing small and start living boldly. Until next time, stay fearless and keep pushing forward. Strong.